Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today is Monday, July 24, 2017. We're going to start the Youth Education and Community Services City Council Committee meeting, and we're going to start off with the public comments. I have one speaker. How's that? Yes, sir. So, okay. I'm present. Juan Villegas, Chair.
Councilman Solorio.
Present.
Councilman Benavides.
Present.
Okay, thank you. We're all here. We're going to continue with the meeting. I'm going to start off with the public comments. I have one speaker, Mr. Gil Salmon. Go ahead, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Gil. I'm a resident here in Henninger Park, and I'm here mainly to address parks in our neighborhood, but it might touch on the joint use agenda item you have, item number 5. But essentially, I live in Henninger Park. We're homeowners. Both my kids were born in Santa Ana, and they're getting raised in Santa Ana. And we just find ourselves driving either very far out of our neighborhood to go to parks in Santa Ana or driving to other communities to go to parks. Because your focus in this subcommittee is on youth, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that Henninger Park is one of the densest parts of the city, and we have no park. It's kind of ironic considering it's called Henninger Park. But I keep hearing from neighbors who've been in the neighborhood for a long time that there's been lots that have come up over time, and the city hasn't put a park in those parcels. And now I see, a lot more money that's going to either refurbishing the zoo or refurbishing other parks around the city, and there's just still no discussion around parks in Henninger. So I just bring that up, and I'm requesting any help that you can lend in identifying parcels in Henninger, and also any funding for parks or even programming. So one of the reasons I was talking about the joint use policies, both Henninger Park and Santa Ana High School are right in my neighborhood, and Henninger Elementary could be a prime spot for a joint use playground that's available to the school but open to the community the rest of the time. And so it'd be really nice to see something like that worked out. And then just lastly, really quickly, I'm on ETAC, on the Transportation Commission, and I hear that we're talking about expanding that little triangle at Mortimer and Santa Ana Boulevard, where there's a giant tree as part of the streetcar. And so it sounds like we're expanding that, making that a much larger parcel. But there's also no discussion around whether that could be turned into like a tot lot or something for an opportunity for youth. So I just want to make sure that that's on your radar, that there's a parcel there that's expanding, and that we should keep an eye out as a possible opportunity to create a little playground, especially with 2018 with the Parks Bond potentially coming up on the ballot in 2018. So again, just anything you can do. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old, and we're trying to keep them active and go to parks and be outside. And it's it's pretty terrible to have to get in your car every time you want to do that.
Thank you for your comments. I don't have any other slips. I don't see any other comments. So we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 1. We're going to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All's in favor? Aye. Okay. That takes care of number 1. We're going to move on to item number 2 on the agenda, the new park projects update. And I have 2 speakers on that. So we'll hear the speakers before the update from the staff. Is Barbara here? Miss Barbara? Yes, ma'am. You can come forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Thank you.
everyone. I'm Barbara Lemire. I'm a 52-year resident of Windsor Park. And what the park project shows me, the new ones, is we might lose our land in Centennial Park to Rancho San Diego, a swamp. That park's been there 37 years, and we, the citizens of Santa Ana, have really been let down. There's no parking Monday through Saturday because of the college. That is our open space. We need it desperately. You hear people talking. We're a dense city. Everything we're building to more than one level. There's no parking in these dense places. There's no place for children. They need to get out. My neighborhood park, Windsor Park, is filled to capacity with people trying to picnic, be outside, just to run around. I feel we're a failure. 37 years later, this park opened May 31st through June 1st. Here's one of my kids' certificate, 1980. And 37 years we've allowed this to go on. It's time to wake up. Give it to the people. We can't get space. Lovely. These places have been available to build. Where have we been? We need it. Rancho San Diego has plenty of spaces. It could go or extend in there. It's continuing education. They can make deals with the high school. They're using some of the classrooms now. Let them use more. Most of the high schools have parking. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, Chris Schmidt. Item number 2.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm
Good
the
afternoon.
Vice President of the Windsor Village Neighborhood Association. To continue what Barbara was saying, Centennial Park is a very unique park. It was built on land that was given to the city of Santa Ana under the federal Land to Parks program. There is a deed. In that deed, there is a clause that says this park has to be maintained properly for the public's use and enjoyment. I know that Councilman Solorio and Villegas were recently there for the 4th of July event, but I don't think they got a chance to see all the rotten wood, the light poles that have fallen over, the sidewalks that are missing sections. So we had a meeting last January of 2016 with our former city manager, and we took a tour of the park. He told us about the property on Bristol that was going to be sold and that some of the money from the sale of that property could be used to fix these things. I would appreciate it if we looked in, made sure that Centennial Park gets the funding to make these much-needed improvements to the park. Simply because the federal government was kind enough to give us this land, we need to maintain it. We lost McFadden Library right down the street from Centennial Park a few years ago because there was limited parking there. I think the location where the continuing education center is right now would make an ideal location for a new library and a community center for our community. I'm not in favor of the community of the Rancho San Diego Continuing Education Center staying there. It's my understanding neither is the National Park Service. That's why we're trying to do a land swap. So again, our neighborhood would like to see that acreage of Centennial Park given back to the community and have it as open space for us to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker on item number 2 is Marcos Rodriguez. Go ahead, sir. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. My name is Marcos Rodriguez, and based on these new park projects, I really enjoy seeing them. I actually today passed by the first park up there, and I think it was really nice looking at it. But when my cousins and I went over there to just skateboard like all the way over there, some folks were kind of like very territorial. They don't like skateboarders around that area. I just went there walking speed, like 4 or 5 miles per hour. They told me to get off. And my cousins, they didn't like that. And this park is really, really new to me, and I don't really like this park. This park is new, and I really feel like everybody should feel welcome. I didn't feel welcome when I was yelled at by just carrying my board or just walking a certain speed. And I feel like every park should be welcome to everybody, including skateboarders. And this is why we should have more elements for skateboarders so that they have their own section to play and not bother anyone while they're on like the playgrounds or something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Luis.
All right. Thank you for letting me be here. So I really appreciate like having these spaces because it's great to have open spaces for all the youth to be able to come out instead of staying inside of the house all day. But I feel like there should really be some skating elements into the parks because there are some youth who skate on the streets and it's not really safe for them, especially if you're on a street skating with cars going by, because then it becomes even more unsafe and then injuries can happen. So it should be implemented into parks that they have a safe space to be able to skate in. So that way they're sure for their parents that not to worry about them like going out and skating. They could easily go to a park and just skate with other skaters inside a safe space that has like those elements for everyone. And then how Marcos mentioned, like being welcomed, so that way all skaters can be appreciated, because there is a stereotype for skaters that it's bad, but really for some of them they enjoy doing it. So feeling welcome should be really crucial to every single youth.
Edwin Ruiz.
Hello, my name is Edwin, and thank you for having me here. And also, like, thank you for like the parks. Like, we're getting more into the city. I appreciate that, and all of us we do. And I also believe that we also need more skating elements because, like, right now we just passed this like property, and there's like even skaters here skating. Like, why not like implement skating elements near this place, and probably will be skating over there instead of this property. And like Marco said, we need to be like welcome and not treated bad and not get kicked out. Like these parks, like these should give us a space element. Thank you.
Josue.
Hello, good afternoon. Today, I'm in the group. I'm with KidWorks, and there's a group with YEN, which is the Youth Empowerment Network, and I think we should get more skate spaces because I think it's dangerous for kids to play outside in the streets. Like they could get like injured, and then they'll be skateboarding like in private property, and then they'll be kicked out. I think they should get more respect and more skate spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. All the speakers, I don't see any more speakers. I don't have any more slips. We're going to move on with the staff report on number 2.
Thank you. Just a brief introduction. With the limited funds available, Parks and Rec Agency has a criteria in identifying and prioritizing projects. The criteria is basically safety first, deferred maintenance second, opportunity to add new park and recreational open space, and third, community and city council ideas or requests. Projects are usually funded.
Ron, I'm sorry. Can you repeat those? I was trying to capture them, write them down, but
I'm sorry.
I missed most of them.
Okay. The criteria, number 1 is safety. Number 2 is deferred maintenance. Number 3 is opportunity to add park or / recreational open space. And number 4 is community / council ideas and requests. That's basically how projects are prioritized as we get funding. Funding is usually made available through grants, CDBG funds, and these two major opportunities are usually leveraged by Park A&D funds, acquisition and development funds, or cell tower revenue. On slide number 1, you see our completed projects, Memory Lane. That was funded by the Housing Related Parks Grant and was matched with A&D funds in a magnitude of $1.2 million. In this particular project, we received 3 grant awards, 3 design awards for. The playground project you see on the bottom, these are 2 of 7 park sites that were just recently completed. And those were funded by 4 funding sources: surplus monies from the City Council, A&D funds, CDBG funds, and CELTAR revenue. And we paid close to $1 million to fund 7 playground equipments in 7 park sites. In addition to that, there's a number of other parks that were completed, such as Windsor Park tennis courts and Riverview basketball courts and Cabrillo tennis courts and so forth. Slide number 2 are the projects that are under construction. The Pacific Electric Park site, funded with CDBG monies of about $2.7 million and estimated to be completed in December 2017. Roosevelt Walker Community Park, that project is about a $7.6 million project funded with $5 million of Prop 84 grant funds, CDBG funds, and expected to be completed in February of 2018. In fact, we've already scheduled a ribbon cutting date of February 5th, 2018 at 3:30. Slide number 3 are various projects. I'll go really quickly through these. Santiago Gas House, funded with A&D monies at about $1.6 million. We just recently hired the consultant, and we're starting to schedule our first community input meeting. San Zoo Otter Exhibit, that's a project funded with A&D monies, about $1.4 million, and an additional $600,000 donation from Friends of the San Ana Zoo. And we retained a consultant to prepare plans and specifications. Zoo Master Plan, another project funded with Park A&D monies, $203,000. Retained the same consultant, CLR consultant, to prepare plans for the master plan. Center Street Urban Greening Project. That's a project to actually close Center Street between Jerome Park. It's funded with State Urban Greening Grant of $608,000. We just received 7 proposals, and of which the project needs to be completed by December 2018. 6th and Lacey Park is a park that's funded by a housing-related grant of $500,000. This is about 50% of the funding. We need another $500,000 plus to complete the project. We've done 3 community inputs meetings, and what you see on the bottom left is a basic conceptual plan of 6th and Lacey. Centennial Lake Circulation Project, we completed the lake circulation study. We're now funded with A&D monies of $235,000 to do the design plans, and then this year, and then hopefully next year we'll do the actual renovation of the circulation system at the lake. Slide number 4.
Ron,
yes.
Can you explain a little bit what that Centennial Lake Circulation Plan consists of?
The lake is equipped with, I believe, around 9 or 10 filtration system around the lake. Only 2 are working. So this project will actually replace that complete new pumping system, and also include a habitat system for the for the fish, aquatic life, as well as plant material to help with the cleansing of the lake and aeration of the lake, and also a fountain that's going to be in the middle of the lake.
So it all has to do within the lake itself.
Within the lake
treatment,
properties
water
itself,
treatment.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
No paths or anything. It's more.
Yeah, that money is to actually do. It's like the construction design. It's not really. It's going to be a lot more expensive.
Right.
That's to come later on. That's just the design.
Just
figuring out the specs.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, real quick while we're on that. At one point, did we have, was the lake active with either paddle boats
Yes.
or
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know, probably 35 years ago. He was here.
Yeah.
But and there is an interest of a year and a half ago they approached me of paddleboard boats for rent, and that what we're waiting because of the environmental conditions of the lake is to get them better, to improve the lakes before
so this
risking people to
so the circulation plan
Yes.
wouldn't preclude activating the lake with activities
No,
later.
no,
right?
it
Or
wouldn't.
if anything,
No.
it
It
could
wouldn't.
potentially tee things
Yeah.
up for that.
It wouldn't. It would not. No, and actually, it would make it better.
Yes.
Going back while we're on, with regard to the Center Street urban greening, can you speak to that a bit more? Is right now it's a street that's been closed off, so it's an inactive paved asphalt.
Yes,
portion of
it's
the
a street that actually divides Jerome Park in half. There's 2 ball fields on the west side, 2 ball fields on the east side. And we actually had to close it. The city council already approved years and years ago to abandon that street. And that was because of safety reasons. There's a concession stand in the middle, and the kids are just crossing back and forth that street. So we abandoned the street, but we never had the funds to tear it out and to develop it into grass. Well, we were lucky in getting a grant to actually develop it into a native planting area. So you'll have a nice little pathway, what do you call a drought tolerant planting, a bioswale, security lighting along that area that will actually connect the 2 ball fields together through this passive landscaping.
So it's all passive. There isn't room for any other type of active, whether it be playground space or
the grant
state
that
element.
we received is very, very competitive, and the reason we were able to get it, in fact, we didn't get it. It was someone was disqualified, and so we moved up. And it's basically because of Ron's excellent team. It's to save water, and because of the concrete, and so it's an environmental points system, and so. Why I believe the recreational elements of the existing fields will be better used because you won't have that street. The street itself needs to comply, correct me if I'm wrong, with the environmental criteria that was the reason why we got the grant. That's why
correct.
It's called urban greening. And because we were able to, we're going to get rid of the concrete, and so that water, and I do believe that we're going to be able to soften and improve the recreational elements by having this kind of bridge of nature, if you will, so that the fields are going to feel better. But we weren't able to just, you know what, we're going to make one of the small ball diamonds into a large ball diamond, because we wouldn't have gotten the grant for urban greening, because that wasn't the purpose.
After this meeting, could you provide them? Sounds like we have renderings and designs since we applied.
Yes, the renders, yeah.
Oh, right up there. Can I get it sent over to me? I just
Sure.
Would be interested. It's in my ward. I'd be interested in taking a closer look. Thank you.
Okay. The next slide is the Santa Anita Synthetic Turf Soccer Field Project. We submitted a request for the youth soccer grant, and we just got awarded $1 million this month for that project. But that's about 50% of the funds needed to actually do that project. We actually need another $1.5 million to match that and to actually start development. But
We'll figure it out. We'll get it. Santa Anita needs it.
But that project will include not only synthetic turf for the field, but it will include drought-tolerant planting completely around the perimeter of the field and an irrigation drip system.
Is there a date by when we need to start construction, or?
4 years?
It's about 4-year project. Yeah.
We need to spend it.
Yeah.
within-
Okay, so we just need to make sure to find those dollars between now and then. Thank you.
So one of the comments on that one, I know some of my colleagues have been active. There's been a reactivated neighborhood association, community leaders out there, which is great, and some of my colleagues have been active and engaging. I had the opportunity as well to meet up with a couple of neighbors, residents, and leaders out there. And one of the questions that did come up, and the thought that question came to mind as well as they were asking their questions is when we go to synthetic, then it allows for the field to be used more, imagine, right? Because it doesn't get worn. Then oftentimes we also have to, it's kind of one of those, there's a pros and cons. We have to be more careful and cautious as to the use and who comes in or what's brought in, right? So one of the questions that did come up is whether at this point there's a perimeter kind of sidewalk area that one can access. Yeah. The question is whether once we build that synthetic turf, the assumption is that we're going to have some type of fence around that turf, and I don't know, it might be I might be an incorrect assumption.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the request was by Ron was at that meeting too. I think it may have been during some of the time that we were discussing, was to basically have the fencing be specific to one is limit the amount of time that it's closed off, that the field itself is closed off so that it can be maximized in use, but then also even when it's closed, that the perimeter would be fenced around the turf and not the perimeter walkway, so that people can still make use of it. So that was one of the things that I just want to provide as again, conveying what was expressed during that meeting by residents.
I think, Ron, the experience that we have with the Windsor is a synthetic field that we did joint use, and it has that rubberized walking, and then we figured out how the public can use it, even not outside of school hours, and in the mornings and stuff like that. But we will make sure that gets considered, because it's a good point.
Thank you.
Willard?
You mean Willard?
What did I say?
Windsor.
Willard.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Willard. Yeah,
Otherwise, they're not going to hear.
Thank you.
Willard. Okay.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, the next project is the Sandpoint Paseo security lighting. We have Park A&D funds. Design is completed, over $200,000, and Public Works is managing that project for us. Thornton Park security lighting, again, Park A&D funds, close to $200,000. The design is completed and is ready to go out to bid. Kiwanis restroom, another project funded with Park Acquisition and Development Funds, $150,000. It's currently under design. And the Pacific Electric bike trail security lighting, the City Council just approved the money using CDBG funds, about $853,000 for that. So we'll be starting the work on that project. And the last item, the Wraith and Myrtle Park design, we have Park A&D funds of $180,000. The funding was approved in this budget process, and we've already held 2 public meetings or public input meetings on that, and we're going to start the design. The conceptual design is what you see up there. It may be modified as we get closer. The next slide number 5, is a long-term park planning process. These are the projects that's taking a little longer getting done because of the details involved in it. Centennial Adult Education Center, which is the project that was talked about just recently in public input, the license agreement expires in November 2019. The land was acquired for recreational purposes only. To release this condition, the National Park Service requires that various items be submitted so they can reach a determination on the land conversion requests. Most of the requirements have been done. On August the 15th, City Council will be requested to hire a consultant to complete the last phase of this item, which is the recreational value report that's needed. And once that's done, then all the documents will be submitted to the National Park Service for review and consideration for the land conversions. The site that we're using for the conversion is Pacific Electric Park, 6th and Lacey Park, and the Wraith and Myrtle Park. And then the San Ana College is actually reimbursing the city for all the costs for the land conversion process. The other item that you'll see on August the 15th is the Standard McFadden and the Bristol land exchange. This project, City Council approved on August 20th, 2016, an exclusive negotiation agreement, and which required a land appraisal, environmental review, and a phase 1 soils analysis. All that has been completed. Both parties have agreed to execute the land exchange agreement, and on August the 15th, City Council will be requested to take action on the land exchange. And once that action is taken, it'll go into escrow, and the whole process will be completed for the exchange.
What do they want to do on the land after the exchange?
Go ahead.
Well, they and we, what do we plan on doing on those two sites?
Currently the Standard and McFadden has a small synthetic soccer field, as you can see, the green, with a community garden that has not been programmed lately. It was being programmed by a church. So that was owned by some partners, and they are exchanging it with the Bristol and Borchardt site. Do you remember what concept? I don't know if they've already submitted their concept for the planning department.
No, they haven't submitted a concept, but they did indicate to us that they will follow all the terms of the zoning requirement for that property. So whatever they provide will fit within that zoning requirement.
I believe it's some type of retail development that would sort of mirror the lot that's just south of that at Edinger and Bristol.
And the appraisals by the same appraisal company came out to be just $9,000 difference of, then they have to write a check to us.
Right.
So then, so everything, I think you'll be getting a chance to, you'll be getting
it
a
helps
chance.
fill the hole.
Yeah, to vote on it on August the 15th.
Great. Gerardo, with regard to the property that then we will receive title for, what is the plan, long-term plan there?
So that's a good question. Within walking distance, you're going to have the Roosevelt Walker Park that has a community center, has a field. So in many ways, and a community garden. So in many ways, certain aspects of this community garden, this soccer field, in many ways, we really need it in distance? Skate facility could be a possibility. A variety. I think because we haven't really, it's not ours yet, but I think we're going to have outreach meetings. This is very close to Bristol Manor, which is a challenged area. Minnie Street, it's a challenged area, and I know, well, we all know that there are skaters all over. But I'm just letting you know that when we do the ribbon cutting, you'll see that it's within walking distance. And so one should think about the different variety of recreational opportunities within walking distance for the youth, so that you're not duplicating things and you can add diversity and recreational things. That's the only thing I can contribute right now, but we haven't started doing outreach meetings because we didn't know whether we were going to succeed in the ENA, and we are. It'll be coming for a vote on August the 15th to council.
The next item is an item that was actually presented to you at the last Youth and Education Council Committee meeting. That was the Dan Young Soccer Complex 7-on-7 proposal. You asked staff to take a look at it and get back to you. We've looked at it, and we've indicated in our analysis that by doing this, there's no space between the fields, and we felt it was unsafe for the players and the spectators because there's no buffer between the two. Risk management also concurs it to be unsafe. Because we're playing 4 games now on the field, it's going to increase the wear on the synthetic turf. Parking will be an impact because you're increasing the amount of players and spectators. SMATH, we've talked to SMATH, and they've indicated that the size of the field is not to their official size, and we also talked to the other leagues, and they've indicated that they don't recommend. They're against the proposal. They don't recommend it.
Other leagues that
Yeah.
use our facility.
I would just make one notation there. I think all the concerns are legitimate, and I think they sent a letter to the entire council of the Soccer Association that they have an issue with
Yeah,
the proposal, and I think the author of the proposal. And so I think a lot of concern is around just the number of fields, the proximity of them one to another. I could see how instead of maybe 4, if you were to do 3 or 2, you would alleviate some of those concerns. I would just ask, just generally, let's keep the idea out there of how we can use all our fields more, especially if it doesn't require any new, infrastructure or painting of lines or anything. Nothing I expect you to put on the top of your agenda, but I know we've had these kinds of suggestions in the past, and we ought to keep, thinking.
I would recommend a 2 on that.
Okay.
From experience, I'm telling you, in Irvine, that's how they are, by the way, because I played down there. But that wasn't working. I remember the conversation we had a while back.
Have them like that in your room?
They have them in 2. They'll take that and they'll split it in 2.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Do 2 instead of 4.
Yes. Safer and creates a walkway. You're cutting the amount of people going there by half. You're still having enough for 2 games to take place.
Okay. The other item that was also discussed at the last meeting was the conversion of field number 5 and 6 by adding an additional field. And you've also recommended staff to take a look at that proposal. The staff did an analysis and indicating adjustment will reduce the size of the field below the SMART recommended size. It will create unsafe conditions on 2 of the fields, as you can see by the red arrows. Parking will also be impacted, and it will also require regrading and sprinkler renovation to those 2 fields. Also, the leagues have voted against this proposal too. Express their concerns. And slide number 9 is the funding for the proposed funding from the Bristol Spyglass sale. The property was sold in May for $2 million. The original list included $300,000 for a skate park from the Bristol sale. Request to develop the skate park downtown. In fall of 2016, staff provided an update on the skate park. Provided 2 other locations, Angel and Civic Center. But in February 2017, Ryan and Herb Chase indicated that they would develop the park in the alley, and funds are not needed for the skate park from the city. So that request was taken off the list. So what you see here is a revised list or a revised proposal of how to spend the $2 million. One is the Centennial Park security lighting. As you heard earlier, the lighting is falling apart. It's got wood posts. Several of them has already fallen. The walkways is lifting. It needs complete renovation. Thornton Park parking lot also, the parking lot itself needs to be resurfaced. Birch Park fencing, the fence we proposing a historical fence around Birch Park. Finances indicated that they need funding to upgrade the HVA system in the senior center. And Saddleback has voiced concerns about security lighting in their park, and the security cameras proposal of 8 parks of $510,000.
Which is only part of.
Right.
Only part of what total to cover all the 8 park sites, but that will help us start the project.
And that ends the presentation on this particular item.
You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a number of comments and questions, so just as a pre-warning. First of all, though, I do want to commend staff. I mean, we are a very impacted city, very dense city, and we all recognize that we're a park-poor city. But in the last number of years, staff in the city has been very intentional about growing our park footprint within the limited space that we have, and definitely very grateful for that. I actually remember back when Councilman Solorio 1.0 was it? I forget what measure it was, but a state measure of dollars came in from the state, and there was a number of different improvements that came into our parks then. I think a lot of mainly improvements and upgrading our weathered and parks, and over the last few years we've been able to see some improvements, and hopefully with the new state bond funds, I believe we'll be able to see some more funds coming towards parks. I also want to commend staff on some of the design and some of the awards and recognitions that have been that we've received around that. I believe we have a very well respected and seasoned, experienced architect, park architect on our team, right, Ron? That does a good job.
Thank you.
So I was noticing that some of the newer parks, and it's good to see that some of the ones that we're planning still are coming, it seems like maybe within the center core. Some of the nice parks we were showing up here, Memory Lane, Santiago, the play equipment, Santiago, Thornton play equipment upgrades, and Riverview basketball courts, Cabrillo. It seems to be sort of on the outskirts, or either northern or southern part of town, and maybe in that far east. The densest part of town is as we know, in the center core. Roosevelt Walker, I'm excited to be able to see that coming full right in one of the most dense parts of town. Pacific Electric as well. We're able to see there where innovation, community input, and feedback. That one you may recall, it was an agenda item. We were about to award and designate a housing project on that parcel, and the community came out and brought up a very good point that we had a one-time opportunity here to be able to designate that park space, and there was some work within the housing division and parks, and Gerardo and your team did a great job of being able to put this together and be able to bring us to a place where we've broken ground and are months out from seeing a new park in a very important and necessary part of town. I think that we're able to see, even though it's interesting to me to see that the scaling or the priorities on how we designate where we're going to invest park funds, at the community input and council input was at the bottom of the ideas being considered. At times, and we see in the Park Pacific Electric, it's actually the community input and feedback, was vital there, and brought a very important benefit to the community. So. Tonight we heard about some of the feedback from some of our young people being, one of the youngest cities in the nation, and I've been a direct proponent as well. Primarily hearing from some of our youth the fact that I didn't skate when I was younger. I tried, but I'd fall off the thing and I'd get hurt more than I spent more time on the ground trying to pick myself up than being able to balance on the board. But it's definitely something I'm seeing more and more, and it's an increasing sport, and it's something that requires not as much. We do have a great full skate park here in town at Centennial. There are a variety of different ways that we can allow for and create for that type of recreation, healthy and safe recreation by our youth. One could be to replicate that and have a full skate park as we do there. Or in other cities, we've seen smaller skate plazas, like I think what will very likely come from the one that's being proposed in the downtown. And then there is just skate elements, a rail, a ramp, something that's simple and basic that can be incorporated within parks. So that's one of the things that I didn't see within or mention within the different projects that are being proposed. Potentially, as the executive director mentioned, that maybe in the Standard McFadden site that might lend itself for something like that. I would just encourage us to look at what we can do within what we have right now that's still in the design, whether it be 6th and Lacey, whether it be the Central Street area, urban greening, a number of different opportunities. I think the Rate and Myrtle design. So it's exciting to be able to see that we have some things in design, especially right now while it's still in design. we have an opportunity to incorporate, some of those elements. Again, we're hearing from our community, our young people, would be an investment in creating something that would be utilized, that doesn't always necessarily have to be passive, or doesn't necessarily have to be a full baseball field or soccer field. It can be something that in very limited space can be activated and can be fully utilized by our community and our young people. So I would like to see, get some feedback at some point, maybe by the next meeting, on how we could potentially incorporate and look at something like that. And that brings me back to the CDBG funds. There's definitely something said for addressing deferred maintenance, and we're always caught in that. We never have an abundance of money. I would, though, I think it's important for us to prioritize and look at where we would get the most use and direct benefit. It's very seldom that we have $2 million that is freed up and say, here it is, essentially a $2 million check. Go ahead and use it as needed. And I would just state the case that when we're able to invest, because there are fewer dollars that I think come to creating new spaces, new recreation areas, new recreation spaces, that when we have an opportunity to invest and do something to be able to enhance our facilities in that way, to be able to add new elements, that we do that. So in some of these things, if we've got things that absolutely need to be fixed, an HVAC system for our seniors, or security lighting, perhaps something that does need to be addressed. It's been pending probably for years. When we're looking at things, I'm curious about the security cameras. That's $500,000, a quarter of the funds, and that one alone. Saddleback View security lighting, I think that's a smaller park, and I don't know how utilized it might be in comparison to other parks, other areas. It's a little bit tucked away. Definitely still need to be able to upgrade and improve our parks throughout. But that's just some of the feedback there. So I would just ask my colleagues here to consider. There were 300,000 that were within the CDBG proposal on how the funds would be used that council supported previously. There were three potential areas, I believe, Ron, that you mentioned. One was the Escape Plaza in the downtown. Angels Park, I believe, was one, and there was a third.
Civic Center.
So the Plaza of the Flags,
okay.
The Memorial Park was the original one. When Mr. Cavazos asked us to do a study on skate park, we did it to the Board of Rec and Park. The Memorial Park, because of the distance from Centennial and having the community an opportunity to have access, that would be a full-size skate park facility, which is to the tune of 1.2 million. Sometimes, depending on how big the buffer, it could be 1.5 million. The same cost for Angels Park. The Plaza of the Flags is something that we want, and we'll bring back the skate park concept if the committee wishes at our next meeting, but the Plaza of the Flags is actually more doable because it's a skate pod facility. It wouldn't be like a permanent construction. It would be kind of a module that you bring into our Plaza of the Flag. That would be about $100,000. I think with our park fee monies, it's much more doable to do it sooner than later. As you know, the Plaza of the Flag is all concrete. And it is, we've already talked, months ago I spoke to the county. They didn't have a problem with it. I think it's a matter of planning it, getting council committee approval and council approval, and waiting for the right timing, because the construction in the Civic Center area is still going on, and the displacement is something that we need to plan out. But I think that could be a very big plus without the cost of a 1.2, 1.5 million sooner than later. I still think Memorial Park is an excellent location. I do believe that Angels Park is an excellent location. The problem with Angels Park is you'll take away the field. So it's one, you can't have both. Unless you, those creative elements, the small elements, you have to, we can explore that possibility. A smaller skate facility at McFadden and Standard is a possibility. I think when we do the outreach meetings, especially within the context of the existing new park that's going to be created at Roosevelt Walker, I think people will understand and see, hey, why don't we add something that complements that new park? But I concur with regards to the need of additional skate park facilities. There's no doubt in my mind. One of the things that I think is important is the learning of skating, and the learning of skating with the younger ones. And what I have witnessed, when staff has witnessed, that sometimes at Centennial Park, the older kids sometimes don't make room for the younger kids to learn. So those smaller elements, or just a way to think about how to overcome those problems, is something worthy of considering, because we don't staff it. We don't staff the thing, and so we have to think about the design and to ensure that there's some kind of fairness and access to the facilities, because there is a big demand. Yeah. There's no question about it.
So with that, I would, present to my colleagues to consider is to bring back at least those $300,000 back into this budget. And potentially, even from what you mentioned, Gerardo, if this Civic Center at 150, we could potentially even do two, either the mobile or smaller elements in a couple of spots.
Yeah.
And last question I have is over at Centennial, we have nearly $900,000 Centennial security lighting at 450, Centennial walkway renovations at 430.
Yeah.
So nearly half of the funds. How much do we receive right now? We heard from some of our neighbors about the impact of Centennial Park on Centennial Park by the college property or the college use there. How much do we receive from the college district on an annual basis to
Ron,
address
they
issues like
pay
this?
a percentage of the maintenance, I think.
Right. They pay 7.4% of the maintenance of the common area of the Centennial Park. So whenever we collect that every month, and we bill them every month.
That's for the existing agreement. That doesn't mean for any future agreements. That would be.
So nothing for improvement. So impact. It's more when you say maintenance. Is that like the roadway and it's the wear and tear, or
the ongoing
maintenance? That's ongoing maintenance. Let's say if we had a budget to, like, a good example is this lighting system. If that's funded, then they'll reimburse us 7.4% of that cost.
Okay, so it's not just for mowing the lawn.
It's
anything that's any type of
correct
to maintenance.
You should know that the pod, the skate facility pod equipment, is not eligible to be funded by CDBG. So let's say that there is $300,000 from the Spyglass that we wouldn't be able to use the $100,000 for the Plaza of the Flags, because CDBG, you can buy equipment if it's permanent, but not if you can move it around. But nonetheless, I believe we'll be able to solve the $100,000. The thing is that depending on where you take $300,000 from that list, they're kind of in a priority order. The new one is the security cameras, and it's not new in priority because they were going to be funded fully with revenues from the cell tower leases that we have in the parks. But it turns out that the police security camera system, which is significantly important to have because it polices overseeing park safety, came back, the estimate, quite more expensive, and the only way we can do those original 8 park sites that have been ongoing discussions with the community security lights is by adding that 510 to close to 480,000 of cell tower monies that we already have for the 8 park sites. And that would create the same system that you have in the downtown area and the Civic Center area, the cameras. Yeah, that sometimes they're high and sometimes they're low. The low ones are the blue lights, but it's the company Siemens, and and that's pretty much that. We would probably have to eliminate some park sites from the cameras if the 510 would be reduced. So I'm just kind of letting you know that's probably would be the consequence, because the other ones have been longstanding. They were part of the original, with the exception of Saddleback View Security Park. That wasn't part of the original ask. That was something that the neighborhood within the last 6 months brought up strongly to Councilmember Sarmiento about the importance of Saddleback View security lights.
So you would come back with a recommendation.
That is the staff's recommendation right now, but council, of course, now it's coming on August the 15th.
We can hold it up if you would like to. We could come back to this committee with looking at other skate opportunities and some funding, maybe being able to keep these funds here if we can find other funds to do it, and if not, then you can decide. So we'd hope to move the projects forward, but if you feel that it's not quite ripe yet, we'd be glad to bring it back.
Safety is a priority, but go ahead, Councilman.
I'll go ahead and wrap with this. What I would recommend, Madam City Manager, is to bring whatever the committee ultimately decides, but also, and maybe when we get to that point, it'd be a time to consider another scenario or other scenarios with regard to skate elements, that it doesn't have to. I think we meet every 2 months, so it doesn't have to get dragged out, and ultimately council staff can get direction from council, and then we can move forward with whatever is decided there. The last comment that I did want to make is so if I'm understanding this correctly, of the $880,000 of improvements that was being recommended here through security lighting and walkway renovation, the College District pays 7.4%?
Correct.
So $65,000 of the nearly $900,000.
Once the project's developed and we get an invoice from the contractor, staff does an analysis of all the expenditures during that month and then bills the College District for that percentage or reimbursement. Right.
They're getting a pretty sweet deal, right now. If we get a significant impact there with the traffic and with all the people that come through, so hopefully we can factor that in as we move forward with other future negotiations. So thank you for being patient.
Thank you, Councilmember Manavides. Councilmember Solorio.
Yes, some various points and questions that I just need, quick responses to. Don't need anything long at this time. First, and starting with this slide here, as well as online, I looked at the capital improvement projects that you have on the parks page, which is pretty good. I would say the staff does a pretty good job of having park improvements citywide. It was a comment was that they're all on the north end of town or somewhere, but I think they on the whole do a pretty good job, and this is a good representation of it. Deferred maintenance and safety is one big area of concern of mine too, and I don't know if you have just a general figure of how much you think we're lacking there in funds, if we could fund all our deferred and safety.
Probably beyond $25 million if you added all the thing, wouldn't you say, Ron? We've talked about this because
and that's one of the things. Maybe not in the short term, but midterm, we do need to begin to think about, should we pay down some of those things so that the overall number doesn't balloon even more?
Yeah.
There are some safety deferred items that the longer you wait to fix them, the exponentially, it gets more expensive. And I'm sure as part of you identifying what kind of projects to do, that's one consideration.
More than 50% of those items are deferred maintenance.
Right. So that's good. But longer term, if we have such a big backlog, we'll have to think about that. The Santiago gas lamp item that was mentioned, is that just a landscaping project around the house, or what does it entail?
That includes a amphitheater, which was monies that was specific for an amphitheater, for a theater, from the city place development within the impact area of that development. And that money apparently, under Mr. Cavazos, it was brought to my attention. I was not aware that the money was sitting there because the project was there for a long time and can only be spent for that. And so in that dirt area, we call it the gas house area, but it's that really ugly dirt area where we used to stage the rubber boot race. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, I remember the rubber.
And the community has for a long time been asking, and we've tried getting grants, and we haven't gotten grants. And so a combination of the development monies, basically park development monies, and it's going to be more of the nature, just like the nature center, more that kind of landscaping, and the theater, the amphitheater.
Got it. Sixth and Lacey, is there a skate park element to that? I think maybe I had heard that. Or is there
No,
not
there's
space for
no
that?
skate park element in there. It's only a little less than a half-acre site.
It's very small.
Yeah, a really
It's
small
very
site.
small as well. Okay. Still on the subject of skate parks, I do like the idea, whether back to this, maybe this committee first, is discussing the downtown skate park that's being proposed by some of the business owners.
Yes.
And maybe that's a good time also to discuss
The plaza?
the plaza, because they're
Sure.
both kind of,
Sure.
non-permanent skate parks. Do we know for the downtown one, would the skateboard elements though stay on there essentially permanently, or how would the
What
furniture,
we're looking
how would the
at
furniture be
is,
moved?
and I thought Caltrans was involved. I think I told one of the council members that it's a city-owned street that we would either have to vacate or do a business license, and we're leaning toward
I think it's the alley.
business.
It's an alley.
It's the alley,
It's
yeah.
an alley.
So we're leaning towards a business license agreement, and then the city continues to hold title.
Okay.
If you vacate, the title goes to the adjacent property owners. And just in a nutshell, what's been talked about is that the developer, the Chases, would construct the skate park, and the city would operate and maintain it. So I don't see it as a temporary facility, something more permanent, with city continuing over the
But
title.
if there's some kind of emergency and fire trucks or something,
We have to look at
there.
delivery for the businesses. We have to look at the trash trucks, and we have to look at the circulation. There's some good things safety-wise about vacating that alley, but there's some concerns as well. So Public Works needs to work through those
So maybe
steps one by
between
one.
Now and when we bring it back, we can have for both those sites, those variety of type of considerations, because since they don't involve the need for additional land or digging up dirt or anything like that, and because they're modular items that get placed on top of a surface, it's easier than these concrete made facilities. I have some more point, but did you have a?
No, my main question is if it's necessary for that to come back here to this committee. I just would hate to slow things down. Like we're city government in general is notorious for having a lot of hurdles and things to make things so that they may be well intentioned but end up being slowed down.
I might be fine either way, but as we know, at these past several months, our agendas are very long, and there's been some items that have been postponed 5, 6, 7 times, or we don't have a long time to do it. Maybe staff can also just look at the timing to come up with all these items as well, because it sounds like, conceptually I think there's growing support for both, but again, you got to analyze widths and security and what do different departments have to say. In some cases, the county. That I don't think it's the kind of thing that we can take to city council in a couple of weeks or anything like that.
Yeah, no, and that's why I think staff can give
Work
staff
through that.
direction to work through that.
Sure. Let's see. Also on the subject of sports, I know today we had a number of presenters on skate parks, but I recently had many requests for more areas for baseball, for various other sports, and I think one of the things I'd like to see as we continue to think about these improvements and future ones are just overall other sports requests and needs. I know too, for a lot of these leagues and these variety of sports, they've identified their own little wish list of maintenance needs. They're always usually very specific by park. So I know with the Pony League, they raise, I think they have like 7 safety and deferred maintenance requests, and we've been able to do 1 in the past 3 years. And so I'm sure kind of by sport area, there are list of different items that need to be addressed. I don't know if is there a way that Parks kind of keeps track by sports area what the needs or requests are?
Yep.
We can bring that up at our next meeting. Absolutely, we can give you an update on all the improvements we've done to the ball diamonds and other sports. Yeah,
that would be good because we often tend to kind of hone on one area for a while, like we did soccer stuff really big for a number of years. There's an interest in skate parks, but there's also still other demands. I know that for the Pone League, I was surprised their membership has at least tripled in the past 4 years, which was, a surprise to me. Part of it is, newer rules and other things with them being in Pony. So I was quite impressed by the increase in players in that area. And again, there might be folks that play, basketball or tennis or other things that they have their list of needs as well.
We'll bring back, we have an extensive list of all of the additional expansion of services for Pony in particular that we've done.
Right.
It's impressive how we've made much more ball diamonds available because they're growing, as you said. They've been growing.
Yeah, they are. And then on the 8 camera locations, maybe top of mind, or if not, you could send to the committee members. What are the parks that may have those?
I think there's
if we go to the next presentation.
Oh, okay, it's on the next side. Yeah. Okay, I would just close by, it was kind of hinted at maybe scaling back some of those, but I know oftentimes we've kind of have promised those cameras to those associations or neighborhoods, so I don't want to see them deferred for another 5 or 10 years or whatever.
Thank you, Councilmember Solorio. Real quick, a couple of things. I counted about 9 parks in the pipeline, and one plus one if there's a land swap. How many of the 9 do we have that might have a skate park then?
How many of the 9 that
are pending right now? The parks that have a skate thing element to it.
None of them, other than the prospects of the Plaza of the Flags that we just talked
separate,
about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious. I know that I was at the meeting for the Six and Lacey with you, Ron.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought they were doing a skate thing there because the guy was talking about the designer about putting some kind of butterfly or some kind of painting on the bottom of it as a theme for the park.
Yeah, that was one of the ideas that came up, is that because we have a sculpture designed into that park, that the idea was, why don't we use that sculpture also as part of a skating element?
But it didn't go through, right?
Well, we've still got the sculpture. We just need to modify the plan a little.
I see. Okay. Thank you. And so there's none there. And in the Civic Center, that's a great idea, putting the parks, the skating, the mobile thing skating there. It'd be great. But my concern is, we're gonna be moving the homeless. There's a high concentration of homeless people there. So if you move them, but yet there's construction being done, where are they going to move to? And I know that the county is trying to, but they're starting in the riverbed. So all that I'm seeing down the way. It's
complicated.
It's definitely complicated. It's going to move a lot of talking there. Okay, so there's just food for thought. Another thing regarding the security cameras at the parks, and I know we'll get to that in a minute. Are they high-end?
Yes, they're the PD system, the current existing Siemens system. Yes,
because if the film's too grainy and they have something going on and they're there for security purposes, if you try to introduce that in court and it's too grainy, you can't make anything. You're not going to get anything.
It's the police system, so it's like the best. That's why.
These are things that I think about that. Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. Great presentation. I'm going to move on to item number 3, and I have 3 speakers. The first one is Jose Arrea. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So originally I wanted to make some comments on item number 3, but I think with your permission I will just touch on number 2, and also on number 5 because for us at Madison Park Neighborhood Association, the all three go together. And on number 2, it's been really great to see that trees were planted at Pacific Electric Park today. So that's really noticeable progress on that. And then great news that the lighting for the Pacific Electric bike trail is also been approved. We've been fighting for this for over decades. I mean, we worked with our friends in Parks and Rec for many years. In fact, I wanted to just insert an invitation here for September 30th. We're having our 15th annual walkathon and health fair at Madison Park. So hopefully everybody will be able to join us. It's been 15 years collaborating with Parks and Rec and more than that. So we made tremendous progress on the Pacific Electric Bike Trail. A lot of use right now. Beautiful progress in the morning, middle of the day, in the afternoon, but it gets vandalized at night. And so I think the lighting is going to help tremendously, particularly between McFadden and Edinger, where there's no houses facing the bike trail. And that's where we get most of the graffiti and vandalism. And number 5, just on passing also, the Madison Park Neighborhood Association, it's been using Madison Elementary as a community center for the last 6 years. And the first year, it cost the Neighborhood Association close to $40,000. It went to rental fees to the school district, which I think unsustainable. Things gotten a little better for us, but still, it cost us. We had to really apply for grants and work hard to keep the school open after school hours and also on Saturdays. And so I think that using the model to have a full joint use agreement with the school district, that would be great, because you already have, it was originally the play area, and then you had the community garden, and I say, just bring it all the way. I mean, the park and the school are the heart of the neighborhood, and it would be great if you can have a full joint use agreement. And I think it's already happening, just a form of the formalizing that. So that's for number 5. In security cameras, so the Neighborhood Association, one of the things that is running right now in the summer, it has a 5-week summer program, and one of them is a Science Academy. And I'm in charge of the curriculum for the Science Academy. We're there the 27th next week. Actually, this week on Thursday is going to be the last day of the 5-week program. And one of the things that we're doing is we're using math concepts in the garden. We have 10 raised beds in the school side of the garden. And we bring the kids maybe once a week to do measurements. We're doing volume and ratios and the like. And they're doing a plot on growth over time on the 5 weeks of the program. So once a week, keep in mind, this is between 8:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. that we're running the science program for these kids. We have approximately 60 rising 4th graders and 5th graders doing this. They're doing math, they're doing anatomy, physiology, they're doing computer science, they're doing oceanography, and then they're presenting their work at UCI on Thursday. So in 2 occasions, the last one was last Thursday, the school shares a fence with Madison Park. And on the side of the park, we have the community garden, we have the basketball court, and then also the ladies' room faces the school. The school garden is right on the other side of the fence of the park community garden. So I'm getting ready to receive the kids, and on 2 occasions, and we have 4 or 5 gentlemen with 3 or 4 ladies, all going into the ladies' room. This is 9:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking, okay, it's either sex or drugs or both. So I called the police, so you should have record of those 2 calls. But I figure if this happens in the middle of the day, you know, when about going to bring, 59 and 10-year-olds to witness this, in their schools, I think our kids deserve better. So I think the security cameras are very much needed at Madison Park. We've been working on this for a long, long time. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Next is Abigail and Jennifer Alvarez on item number 3, the security cameras.
Good afternoon. My name is Abigail Alvarez, and I'm the secretary of the Madison Park Neighborhood Association, and this is my sister.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Alvarez. I was a former MPNA secretary.
And we're here to urge the installation of security cameras at Madison Park. We think that's going to benefit our community, specifically the apartments on Cedar Street, which is right across the street, as well as Minnie Street, which house most of the kids that attend Madison School. And I know for a fact that these kids do not feel safe playing in the park. I don't feel safe taking my little brother to the park because just this past April we had a shooting in the bathroom. So like Jose Rea said, you can find anything in the bathrooms from drugs to homeless people, and it's just unsafe for women and whoever's using the restrooms. I think we will definitely benefit from the installation of the cameras because it will decrease the criminal activity.
Also, I started with MPNA when I was a freshman in high school. Now I am a rising sophomore in Brown University, and it's been like around 5 years. We've been planning. We presented this project to you guys. It's already been more than 5 years, or about 5 years, and we're still waiting for the security cameras. I know you guys are going to vote on the proposal for security cameras on August 15, and after that day, when it does get approved, like how much more do we need to wait for these cameras? I feel like our community needs an answer for this, and they're just growing very impatient. We would like an answer. Thank you.
Thank you both for coming out and for your comments. And the last speaker I have is Mr. Chris Schmidt.
Hello again. So this has been a project of mine for 2 years now, going back to when the park rangers transitioned from the Parks Department to the Police Department. I've been asking about it. The Police Department has cameras all over the city, especially in downtown. Why can't we have them in our parks? So I'm glad to see it's moving forward. I'm glad to see we're putting in new parks, Pacific Electric, Great and Myrtle, but we need to also protect them once they're there in our existing parks. So last year, the city spent over $100,000 at Windsor Park to renovate the tennis courts we're on. Mm-hmm. The week after it was opened, the chain link fence was cut. Both nets were broken. The painted courts had been vandalized, literally 1 week after the tennis courts were open. I'm going to tell you about some incidents that we don't hear about. There was a dead body found in El Salvador Park this week. An elderly transient male died there. Park staff was opening up the restrooms at Bomo Corral in February and was attacked by a transient staying in a storage area. Guess what they found on him? City keys. The police department's vehicle key was with him. Santa Anita Park, staff was going to open up the restrooms in the morning. He was attacked by 3 transients, rocks thrown at his window, broken. These are things we don't talk about because we say, oh, our parks are safe. They're not. I'm a little bit concerned about the $900,000, the price. I would like to kind of see an example of what these security cameras look like. Our city park has a cell phone tower. We were told there was about 35,000. Please take it, install them. So I would like us to please move forward. I would hope maybe you guys could ask for a list of all the calls for services at our city park so you can see what the items like these young ladies and Mr. Rea mentioned. They're happening all the time. So please support this and get the cameras installed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt, for your comments. We're going to continue with the staff report presentation.
All right, thank you. On the security cameras, in fiscal year 16-17, Parks and Recreation identified $402,400 for security cameras. It was funded mainly from cell tower revenue. Parks are Madison, Windsor, Jerome, Chapa, Santa Anita, Memorial, and Santiago. Staff is currently working with Santa Ana PD to ensure that the cameras are connected to their system. Siemens have installed security cameras in the Civic Center and downtown. So Santa Ana PD is working with Siemens to negotiate to supply and install the cameras in these 7 park sites. The agreement will be submitted to City Council for approval. Additional funding is needed. As you saw in the last report from the Bristol sale, $510,000 of CDBG money is proposed to identify for security camera installation at these park sites.
Great, thank you. If you permit me, I'm going to allow one more speaker, Mr. Thomas Gordon.
Just briefly, I want to piggyback on that.
If you can speak into the mics because we're being recorded. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Briefly piggybacking on the cameras in the parks, in addition to the dead body, there's been graffiti, F-Troop graffiti in El Salvador Park all weekend. It was called in this morning, and it's still in El Salvador Park. So I don't know if that's a lack of cameras or a lack of a contractor doing a good job or both, but it's completely unacceptable that a gang has taken over our park and allowed to own that park all weekend and all day today, and that graffiti's still there. Completely unacceptable. Get the cameras.
Thank you for that comment. We're going to continue with the staff report.
That's it.
Any of my colleagues would like to comment? Councilmember.
Is there a staff report, or is there?
I just went through it.
It's just the update. Okay. That was it.
Okay. So
I think Mr. Gordon overshadowed the presentation, but there was
I do have questions. If I'm so there's the reference to security cameras, and the sense from the community is that it's going to make our park safer. So can you help us understand how they're going to work, how they're going to in fact make our park safer? Maybe an example of how they've been used elsewhere, so that ultimately they're going to fulfill what they're doing.
My experience, because of when the Civic Center cameras were installed, there wasn't enough cameras to capture the images outside of the library. And so the Parks and Rec was able to find additional monies to add more cameras to capture right outside of the main library, as well as cameras inside. And I have to tell you that the images of the video, which are very, very high quality, were able to be used to make PD to make arrests on bicycles being stolen around the library, assaults, and vandalism. And the reason is that while there isn't a live monitoring of the images by PD, when the reports are provided, they go back and they're able to use it as evidence for prosecution. With regards to some ongoing problems in parks, as it was made reference to, for example, possible drug dealing or prostitution in some of the restrooms, there's another problem of ongoing people drinking alcohol and also gambling. That frequently some of these incidents are reported, and by the time that the police department gets there, there's no longer any evidence. And so with the camera systems, it's been known through park systems in the country that it deters a great deal because you put signs. People realize there's cameras, but also when people ignore them, there's a higher chance of prosecution because the evidence is there. And so I highly recommend the installation of the cameras based on our studies and our research. I do believe that given that park safety is such a big priority and it's really on the shoulders of the police department, that it should be the police system. You could install cameras, a lot less expensive, but it's not part of the police system, which has a really good track record with regards to Civic Center, and recently in the addition to in the downtown area, the blue camera system in the downtown area. So I believe it's going to enhance park safety quite a bit. And for the most part, the parks are high priority parks that are mentioned. The reason Santiago Park is there because we have a historical problem with regards to the lewd conduct. And so that's why Santiago Park was added. even though it's different kinds of problems, it's still, we believe the security cameras will be a big deterrence on that type of behavior, which is really shocking for that to occur in a park.
So to clarify, they're not actively monitored. It's primarily to be able to review after
Correct.
incident. Will there
That's the current system. Yes.
Will the down here? We've mentioned a few times the downtown system.
Yes.
Those are the blue light where if you can call and have direct access,
Yes.
direct dial to dispatch, the PD, and there's a camera on you as you're calling in if there's an incident. Is that part of this, or is it?
Ron, do you know if PD is recommending the blue light system in the parks or the high cameras? I don't recall.
They're recommended as part of the installation.
The blue
That's why
light?
it's so expensive. Yes.
So that is the interactive feature because they're recommending the blue light.
Do we know yet if how many we'd have per park, cameras and blue lights?
All the parks are different. Like Chiapas Park will not require that many. So that whole specification, we can provide it to you via email because Ron has it. The new cost estimate is about to come in. We believe this will cover. I'm hoping this will cover all 8 park sites.
Okay.
But we're awaiting the cost estimate. But we know that we definitely need the money in order to be able to do all 8 parks.
So I'd appreciate some of that background. Again,
Sure.
Mainly it's a significant investment, and if the concern, and it's understandable, there are issues that are taking place in our parks, don't want to give the false sense that we're going to get these cameras, suddenly the parks are going to be, that the safety issues are going to be addressed. We've also been trying to figure out the park ranger system and with people out there, to actually patrol. I just would hate to set false expectations that cameras are going to be there and now the parks are going to be safer, especially if they're with them not being regularly monitored and us not having the staffing to go out there and patrol, especially since it's a large investment that could be go towards some of the deferred maintenance that my colleagues mentioned, or something that would be directly visibly beneficial. So it's again one of those.
It isn't one single bullet that will clear all that. The library recently has gotten very positive feedback by the reduction of incidents. But remember, it's not just cameras. We invested in security guards and we redesigned the entire seating area inside. So it's all those 3 factors that have helped a great deal with regards to enhancing the security inside the main library.
So my last comment, when it comes to council, it'll be helpful to have some of that empirical data to be able to see that security cameras directly impact and what the cameras and the system will consist of, so that we can factor that into the decision making there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Benavides. Councilmember Solorio.
Yes. So I think part of what you answered towards the end helped answer my question. So at each of these parks, there may be more than one camera.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So when the number looks big and the number of parks looks small, you think, oh my
there will
goodness,
be definitely
how
more,
much do these
more
cameras
than,
cost?
Yes.
So if there's quite a few per park, you have a lot of infrastructure and wiring and a number of things. Okay.
It's also the high the broadband. Because the video, you need to really, that's part of the expenses, the backbone for the broadband.
As part of the additional background, like Councilmember Benavides said, one of the things I'd be interested too, because you may not know the answer top of mind, is are these very nice cameras set up to in the future maybe allow for live monitoring?
They do. They do. They are accessible for live monitoring. What I made reference to.
So they do have the capability.
Currently existing.
Yeah. We do live monitoring or we just don't?
No, PD doesn't have the resources to actually have someone in front.
But the capability is fully built in.
And also Park and Rec staff has access to the camera. So we can't arrest people, but we have access to the camera images.
Okay.
But yes, you can live monitor.
That's good to know. And these cameras, they're in the parks budget or in the police department budget?
Parks budget.
And the same with maintenance?
Yes, the same would be for maintenance, yes.
Okay, but there is some interaction with the police department just because they'll need to monitor police.
Yeah, we've gotten the funds. We're having the funds for installation and for maintenance, but PD basically operates them because it's their primary tool for park safety.
Okay. The last thing I just want to highlight for my colleagues and the folks in the audience, because I know on multiple sides of the public safety issue, we have folks in attendance. This is a good example of really for youth to be able to enjoy our parks and sports opportunities. We need not just security cameras, but park rangers, police patrols, and I know sometimes, that there's some folks in the community that want to say you can only choose one or the other, and we really got to do both. We got to invest in youth, but also make sure that we have safety for our youth so they can feel comfortable and be safe there. And just by virtue of whether it be on the capital side or in the staffing side, park rangers and police are in the police department budget. And I know sometimes there's folks in the community that say, well, we got to, spend on police and more on youth activities. And I think we just got to continue to do both and in a smart way. Also with good technology too, over the long run, maybe we won't need as many officers, right? I mean, the idea is that if you have good technology and predictive policing and evidence-based activities, that you could be a little smarter with the PD amount. So again, I just highlight this as an important area where we gotta do both for the benefit of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Solorio. Myself, I'm a big fan of these the cameras, but and it is a deterrent. But we still need the police. We still need park rangers. Where are we with the park rangers?
Yeah.
Are we?
We are. We are waiting to see if we are able to proceed with a contract, an expanded contract with the marshals. In which case, we will need to keep the staffing in the jails. If not, we've called for the 1st of August to know that, and we will then begin to transfer some of those jail positions into the park rangers. So we've been holding them for that.
Very good.
That doesn't solve the problem. If we are fortunate to get the U.S. Marshals contract for 2 years, it's still very difficult to hire park rangers. So we may have to be back with some new specifications about what we're looking for. But more of that to follow once we know about the Marshals contract.
Thank you very much, Madam City Manager. I would also like to say that, if we're having trouble with the park rangers, and we're going to need the police patrols in the parks, just because we have cameras or they're coming, the public still needs to practice common sense, safety. There are people who are under the influence, whether it be drugs or alcohol. They're not thinking about the cameras. They're not right. So everyone needs to still practice safety. I'm a father of a young lady, so just because technology is there doesn't mean that nothing's going to happen. So we need to be mindful of that. The cameras that are in the Civic Center, those are from Homeland Security, so those are real high-end, sharp cameras. These other ones, well, hopefully they're good, and I see that they're not monitored, but they're just for more for review. And like I said, if the film is grainy or something, it's going to be tough to get a prosecution on that. So hopefully they're very, very sharp, very clear. And of course, we need lighting to go with those cameras. Another thing, they go hand in hand. Okay, so thank you very much for the update. We're going to move on to item number 4. I don't have any speakers for that, so staff.
Yes, we're gonna do a quick update on major city-produced events update. Basically, on the first slide, it's just a real quick recap of Dia de los Niños that happened on Saturday, April 22nd. We had about 1,500 in attendance, youth and other residents as well. Cinco de Mayo took place on the weekend of May 6th. Oh, am I going too fast? Oh. Okay, so I just reviewed Dia de los Niños, happened April the 22nd. Cinco de Mayo that took place on the weekend of May 6th and May 7th. We had over 160,000 people in attendance in the downtown area.
How do we estimate that?
Well, we've done this for so many years, through PD numbers, our numbers, and the people that attend, sponsorships, how much, food, and the parking structures, did they get full or not? Yes, there's a number. 4th of July, that's the last one that took place on the 4th of July, and we have over 6,000 folks attend. And it was just a great time. It's all about celebrating our country, and the kids learned about our history of our country, like I said. Moving on to the next one.
Jeannie, quick question
Yes.
for you. 4th of July.
Yes.
Our numbers. I don't know that you would have it on offhand, but
Uh-huh.
year over year, has it continued to
We've
increase?
increased every year.
Yeah.
Yes.
This year,
And the
guys-
committee could tell you firsthand from that. It's a committee of folks of leadership in the city, and it does increase year after year. We hope next year increases more. It's just a great, great event, not just for the kids, but for the entire community to learn about our history. And, the volunteers go above and beyond. All the decorations was done by them. I think it was the best it ever looked. Yes, staff is there to help, but the volunteers did an amazing job.
That's a wonderful job on
Mhm.
both the staff putting it together, and it's a great partnership. And I know that our young people and residents in the community volunteer at the Youth in Government,
Yes,
a number of others. So thanks for giving them the opportunity, and it's great, great coming together. Thank you.
Thank you. Shakespeare in the Park's coming up this Thursday. If you're available, it's going to happen at 7 p.m. here at Birch Park. And currently, park maintenance staff, by the leadership with Ron here, they're getting it all ready for that event. Fiestas Patrias is coming up as well. We're in full planning for that. September 16 and 17, which is Saturday and Sunday. But this one a little bit different, as you're aware, than Cinco de Mayo. We also have a parade. So Sunday the 17th, we have a Fiestas Parade at 4 p.m. And this one draws a lot more people because about 80,000 at the parade route. Once that's done, everybody comes into the downtown. But back to Saturday the 16th, we also have El Grito, and that's in conjunction with the Mexican Consulate. They come out and do the Grito for the public. The next slide, please. Just to let you know, the downtown businesses requested that the entire event to be moved away from the downtown area. The staff explored the feasibility of having the event on Flower Street and the use of Santa Stadium. This option will be considered for 2018. Football games for Santa High School and Santa College are set already for 2017 and could it be moved. Staff really tried, the reservation staff, to try to move these, but as possibly some of you are aware, I'm a Santa High School graduate. The tradition is Santa High School, they walk from Santa High School to the stadium with the band and the cheerleaders and the football players. Well, they get there a little bit earlier, but it's just a tradition. Santa College, they have their game there on Saturday, so it's a little bit difficult to displace them this year, but we're going to try to do our best for 2018. Next slide.
So on that one, Ginny, so it's the Fiestas Patrias, potentially moving to that location, to the Flower Street?
We're looking to that, yes. This year, it will be, the stage will be moved to, well, I'll talk about it in a little bit, but it's still going to be in the same area, except for the stage will be on 5th and 4th this year.
Okay.
And that will help with the businesses and that, having it in the same area all the time.
On Main Street.
Yes, on Main Street.
Okay. And we anticipate that flower, I imagine it's from Civic Center to Santa Ana Boulevard?
Yes.
Yes.
It seems like a reduced footprint over where we typically
Do you remember the Black History Parade culture affair that we did in the parking lot?
Right.
So that would be open to, and the stadium would be open to.
Okay, so it'd be...
And then the carnival and the booths will be in the middle.
Oh, wow.
But that would be for 2018.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just curious how how
Also,
that would...
not only because of the request from downtown, that it's very possible that the streetcar would be in construction in 2018. So I've never thought that you can do this big events while there's construction going on.
Safety, it's all about safety. Yeah. Next slide. So we're going to have our annual Downtown Santa Ana 5K run on Saturday, October 21st, and it's free and open to the public. The run starts at 8 a.m. As you're all aware, it's grown over every year, and we are currently looking for the timing company to help us out. So spread the word. We really want folks to come out. We're also partnering with Frida as well with this event, and we're looking for volunteers as well. Plaza Navideña, we begin the holiday season with Plaza Navideña on Saturday, November the 18th, with the holiday celebration and tree lighting. And just a fun event, starts at 5 p.m. We close off the plaza for this, and we're looking to closing a little bit more footprint because it's getting bigger and better every year. The kids love the piñatas, the hot chocolate, and the cookies, and just overall a holiday cheer with the carolers. The next slide. Now planning for 2018, event planning. You know, the agency needs to focus on core services to youth, seniors, sports, recreation, and park programming. So City Cinco de Mayo Festival 2018 will not be able to be produced by staff because of staff shortage. And we will have the private event producers take the lead. If they want a permit to do this, they're welcome to do it, and you know, we could be overseeing that a little bit. But to explain it a little bit further, year after, you know, back 4 years ago, it was given to us, and the way we're able to do it, you know, and we're very creative, is by pulling staff from the regular duties and responsibilities. You know, part-time staff has a total of about 970 hours per year. Currently, what happens towards the end of the year, you know, they might not be able to work that June because they already worked the special events. Full-time staff, they accumulate comp time quickly with these special events, the weekends, and also with their must-use vacation. So thus, then they have to take time off during the year. A little example, just so you can know the total number. This past Cinco, it took 671.5 hours of staff time for this 2-day weekend. Last year for Fiestas, it took 651 hours of staff time for that weekend.
I remember I went down there and you folks did an outstanding job. It was just wonderful, but everyone was tired. I mean, it was a long day. I remember I went on that Sunday and it was just, I was amazed at the great work that you folks do. But yeah, there's definitely a staff shortage, a manpower shortage. It's just, I wish we could fix that, but
so
we're working on it.
What we're envisioning is that we will issue an RFP for Fiestas 2018. So the street fair, the carnival entertainment will be done by someone that, you know, they submit RFP, hope they get chosen, and they produce it. You know, staff will continue to produce the parade. That one doesn't take as much staff and as much hours like the 2-day festival. Actually, we started setting up since Friday for those events. It's like almost like a 3-day weekend for us. But the parade, that's a 1 day. It's, you know, 4 o'clock on a Sunday. It's a 2-hour parade. It's a little bit easier. Just like the 5K. It's a morning event. It's quick. It's done, and then you go home.
So, Jenny, quick question for you.
Sure.
You're mentioning the RFP for Fiestas,
Yes.
which is in September, and for May, which is a few months earlier. You have a private producer.
Mhm.
Do you have somebody selected already for that? Or are you doing an RFP for that one as well, or how are you doing?
No one's selected. It would be an RFP.
Oh, okay. So there's an RFP on.
We're
for
about to
Cinco
release it. Yeah,
as well.
For the Cinco, for the Cinco, we're just gonna. It's going to be privately done. There's no city subsidy. But for Fiestas, it is a city event. Will continue being a city event. Fiestas has been 38 years. Cinco de Mayo is more of a new thing that was added by Sergio Velasquez when he was the event producer, Mini Ondas. And but in 2010, staff did start producing directly the parade. It used to be done by the Mexican Council and a variety of different groups, and there was always issues, and so we were asked in 2010 for staff to oversee the parade.
So I'm still a bit confused. Are we doing RFP for, basically there's mention of RFP for Fiestas, but not for Cinco? So I'm just curious if is there going to be?
No, so what this is saying that staff is not able to produce in 2018 the Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, so it's not happening.
It's not happening.
Oh, okay,
it could happen if there's a private event producer
That's interesting.
that wants to do and get a permit, just like right now anybody can go through the police and get a permit to close down streets and do an event.
Okay, seriously. Okay.
But the Fiestas 2018 RFP, that means that the staff could kind of monitor that, but they produce it, but we monitor the contract, basically.
Yeah. So so Fiestas, you're saying we're going to continue to do Fiestas,
Yes.
produce Fiestas, it'll be through RFP.
Yes.
Yes.
Cinco de Mayo, is it going away then? We won't continue to
not
do it
city
like we
produced
do.
anymore. We just don't have the staffing.
But we don't want to do an RFP.
We could do an RFP. We have done an RFP. We haven't gotten an interest, we could do an RFP. We definitely have to do fiestas. So we have to do fiestas, which is why, because it's going on its 40th year. And but for Cinco, it was an add-on. And it was an add-on mainly because at the time it was making money for the private event producer, and staff inherited it. We don't have the staffing to do it anymore. We could float an RFP and see if there are any takers, but for fiestas, since it has to happen, if there are no event producers, then I guess it falls on the staff again, fiestas. But anyway, that's sort of the situation, and again, what we mentioned, we would be exploring flower for fiestas in 2018.
So just the thought is if there was 2 events and we were to sort of package it, and if there was a producer who was interested in doing both, where it would be a win-win, where it's a win-win-win, celebration of the community, place something for the community and families to come out and celebrate. Obviously, for a producer, they would do it for, it would be profitable. I'd imagine otherwise they wouldn't do it. But if there was 2, then it would potentially more profitable for them. And ideally, they'd be profitable for us, right? It'd come back so that we were able to receive something.
We can do what we call alternatives. In other words, there could be someone that says, I just want to do fiestas, and just give them the alternative. I want to do both, and then analyze both of them. We could do that to see if is anybody out there.
Yeah, there's no downside to ask. I think, though, for the Cinco de Mayo, the one in the past, we have done that, and I don't think there's ever been a producer that on that event has made money. I think they'll do it once a year and they say thanks but no thanks.
Yeah. I mean, it was started by the private event producer thinking because Fiestas was profitable, and then they added Cinco.
But no downside in asking, hey, this one for sure we want to do, and there's going to be a city subsidy. I think that's what staff's saying. This other one, probably no staff subsidy, but if it makes sense, sometimes it makes sense for them because they could get one sponsor to do multiple events, multiple reach, and maybe we can do it in a way that just doesn't, commit us to doing it.
I'm probably not a major revenue producer, but as we talk about economic development, revenue, ways to be able to bring in revenue, just an idea to package us.
Well, the good news is we will continue with Dia del Niño, 4th of July, Shakespeare, downtown Santa 5K, and the Plaza Navideña. So we will continue with those.
Great. Thank you very much for the update. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5. Discuss the Santa Ana Unified Joint Policy.
Ideas for the agenda.
Yeah.
I don't think
I have one speaker, Edgar Arellano.
Yes.
Did he leave? Edgar Arellano? Okay, I don't see him, so he left. Okay, go ahead, sir.
What I was going to say is I think this is for any ideas that you would like us to share with the school district to add to the agenda. However, Ron, I believe the school district gave us a couple of date options, and then one worked for all of you, but then they recently said that it doesn't work for one of their members. So we're still looking for
There's no date as of today. We were looking at August 28th, but one of the school board members was not able to be present, so they're still searching for a date.
Okay.
But you can still give us any thoughts on the agenda for the joint policy meeting.
Yeah, I have a couple. I think we had a good start on dialogue at the last one regarding opportunities for Wi-Fi and low cost or free ways to the benefit of our residents and youth. Mm-hmm. We talked about an internship program and opportunities for partnership there. And then I had heard the item, and I think it was Mr. Rea and others today that talked about at Madison Park, enhancing the joint use opportunities there. And also, since this gets me to that point, Mr. Rea, you mentioned that for joint use costs, you were having to pay. It sounded like you said $40,000, but I think you meant $4,000, maybe.
No, the first year it cost close to $40,000 to the neighborhood association to work.
But your association probably doesn't have that much money, though. I mean,
well, it unfortunately came out of a grant, which that decreased the abilities to offer more programming to our residents. By the way, this 5 years, if you add the saving cost to the city to run an unofficial community center, it could be substantial. So
No. I
we
mean,
should look into
that's
that.
excellent. I just think, that I hadn't heard of any neighborhood association that having that kind of resource to
Well,
really,
it was
rent
at the expense
facilities,
of many
rent
other
facilities
things
from
come out of a grant.
from the school district. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. And then I know the community garden that's there, location-wise, and maybe part of it is access. And again, back to management, I also want to hear more about the community garden, because I think that's kind of like also a joint use in a broader way, because that also brings a lot of parents and adults to it as well. So those are the items top of mind that I'd like to see on there.
Councilmember Benavides.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were a number of different, what would be helpful is if we could get, obviously not for this meeting, but the agenda, the last agenda that we discussed, and I think there were some items, some carryover items. So it would be helpful to look at what we already discussed.
We can email you the minutes.
Okay.
I think there's a draft of the minutes from the last.
Okay, that would be helpful. And if staff could maybe pull from the minutes when you send those over and say this is what we pulled, what we identified as to items that the either board or council had recommended to be discussed at future meetings. Joint use is one of those items that it may have been on that discussion, just to continue to expand our joint use opportunities. And there's both either at specific locations or just in general, just a discussion on how we can continue to build on that. I think having the discussion on the table and just hashing through that, figuring out what would be a general win-win, a way that we could continue to work on and continue to expand that just overall partnership. I know one specifically, there was a plan that we had in place for Lathrop that had moved to certain degree, and it ended up being held up. So pause. So just finding out what the status is on that. I think we had set aside some funds. I know we had set aside some funds to be able to move forward with that. So just discussing update on that, and overall. Another item is just overall partnership on supporting our youth citywide. So it's a general topic. Maybe between now and then, both myself and my colleagues can come up with some ideas, and if it's on the mind of their board and some of the staff over there, they can come up with some thoughts. Especially now as we'll be having a youth services supervisor role that the council voted on creating under your department, Mr. Moet, so that we could very intentionally be working with the district and look at kind of leverage, having our person on our end, seeing how we can partner with somebody on their end, so these both significant institutions within the city would be looking at ways to partner and support our youth at a greater capacity. Okay. So those are the items that come to mind to me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to item number 6. Future items for the committee to discuss. I'm going to open that up.
Yeah, I hinted at earlier. I'd like a presentation on major park needs by sports category. Because again, I think sometimes we get caught in focusing on one side or other based off of what council interest might be, or organizational external interest might be, and I think every now and then it's good just to focus on all the sport needs and seeing, where the growth is, where it isn't, and what type of general needs there are. So I'd like that at next meeting or two.
Very good.
And go ahead, Councilmember Benavides. Any comment?
So just along those lines of the previous item 6, future discussion. We discussed had some discussion around skate elements and how we can creatively incorporate those into future parks. Councilman Chairman mentioned that there's 9 projects proposed, but we had yet to have some of those elements incorporated. So an opportunity to look at ways to incorporate some of those in future park developments. And Centennial Park is our largest park. I think significant asset we have in the city. I'd like to just start exploring just ways to continue to activate. I'd love to be able to see the paddle boats and other ways. At times, different parks, lakes that have the little some type of a master plan discussion. Yeah, I'd like that term with those remote control boats and just ways to be able to make it a type of place that's active and used. And if there are any other parks that come to mind that can have some type of similar activities, but definitely seeing that as our largest asset and park, that'd be something I would appreciate having discussion around. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. One thing I wanted to comment on, or is there an update on Mr. Schmidt, regarding the tennis court with the graffiti and did that ever get taken care of? Okay, and that is at what park again? Windsor Park. Okay. You haven't got an update on that?
Okay.
And the graffiti at all the parks? Where are we on that? Was there a report or on that? If we could just look into that?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because I understand. I'm a realist. You paint it out, someone comes over and tags it the next day, and they're busy somewhere else. Totally, I understand. I get it. Just try to keep on it. You folks are doing a great job, and I don't forget that. Just members of the public are concerned. We want to try to keep up on it, and the shopping carts that are out there. And so, what happens? Does the city pick those up, or does the store come out and pick them up? The city picks that up.
Yeah.
So if there's a Target cart out there, Target doesn't come out, or a gentleman. I know in the Civic Center used to be this gentleman came out and he'd pick up all these carts and he would drop them off for cash.
Yeah, the pickup of shopping carts are handled two ways. Either the park staff would pick them up and store it at a site, either the yard or Centennial, and they'll call this cart collector, I guess, that will come up and pick it up, or the collector would go around and pick it up himself.
I see some of them have a problem because of the homeless will use them and they're full of things. And how do you collect the cart when this guy's there defending his house and this? It's tough. I understand, but thank you all for your hard work. And with that, one last comment.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, one last. With the parks, the park state measure, when it comes back to future items, it'd be helpful to be able to have some discussion around that. Opportunities, maybe get our state advocacy firm to do some of that research and study, bring out to basically support and resource the staff, and then potentially the committee, and just so we can be updated on how we could best be prepared to benefit from that. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay. Anything else? With that, we adjourn. Thank you.